So let's talk about why too many business owners are stuck solving $10 an hour problems when really they should be building, $10 million systems. So here's the situation. You build a real business, you got revenue coming in, you might even have a great team, but here's the problem. You're probably still the one solving most of the problems in your business. Customer complaints, refund decisions, new ad campaigns. Can you approve this? What should I do about that? Content approvals, vendor issues, technical fires, lead generation, you name it. Too many founders are involved with too many things inside their business that are not CEO levels, right? They're $20, $50 an hour problems, and you're solving them at the expense of the $1,000 an hour work, or it could be more, it could be less, depending on the size of your business, right? But that's basically strategy, partnerships, growth, new opportunities that you as a CEO could be pursuing if you would have systems and a team in place to get you out of the weeds. So the question is, why are you still stuck solving 10 or 20 or $50 an hour problems, right? Because you're operating at the wrong stage, and let me show you what I mean. So every business owner goes through 5 predictable stages. It's almost like a roadmap. So it's great because it's going to show you what to do to get to the next level and how to build a business that can run itself. That basically means your team is running it based on the systems that you create and that sort of stuff, right? So whatever your stage is really is not related to revenue, because I've seen people doing hundreds of thousands of dollars each month and they're stuck at stage 2 and they're miserable. They're working 70-hour weeks. They're frustrated. Like, why can't my team take more ownership and responsibility? And I've seen people doing, $50K or $70K a month, and they're working 20 hours a week and they're loving life. And I've seen people do even like 5 hours a week, not making like 75K a month, but like, 30, 40 grand a month, loving life. So what's the difference? It's systems. It's not revenue. 5 stages of business evolution, as I see it, are more related to the systems and the team that you put in place, rather than like, okay, if you're at this revenue, then you're at this stage, right? No, like you put the systems and the team in place, and that's going to propel you and allow you to scale higher and higher and higher. And with that, revenue will grow. So stop chasing revenue and start building systems and the infrastructure that's going to support and, push you in the direction of the revenue, and revenue will come. So here are the 5 stages. Stage number 1 is the worker. You do everything yourself. You're, packing orders, you're answering emails, you're running ads, you're handling customers, you're doing the sales calls. You can't take a day off without problems. So that's where most people start, right? You start a business, you do all sorts of things, right? You wear all the hats in the business, right? The operating system is basically you. So, and that's normal, right? Like at the beginning, you're not hiring people unless it's not your first business, but a lot of people will just, start doing the work themselves. As the revenue grows and they can afford to hire more people, or as the, complexity grows with revenue or more customers and more clients and so on, you need help, you start hiring people, and that's where you go into stage 2. Now, stage 2 is you have help, you have people inside your business that are, doing the work now, so you've hired a few workers to work instead of you, but now you need to manage them, right? So you're traded doing the work for assigning, checking, and approving the work, right? You're still the bottleneck, it's just in a different way. Now, it's obviously a better stage to be at, right? Because you're at least not like doing the sort of like the legwork, the grunt work, right? Like the execution, but you're managing it. Now, the truth is, like, most people will get stuck somewhere between these 2 stages. Like, they'll hire a few people and now they got to manage them, and assign work and like train them and like all this sort of stuff. But then at the same time, they're still doing the work in certain pockets of their business, right? So let's say you're still the one doing the sales calls, or you're still doing client work, but you got like admin people and social media people and that sort of stuff, right? So you're kind of like in between stages. Now, to get to the next stage, you need to replace yourself as the manager, right? You've replaced yourself as the worker. Now you need to replace yourself as the manager. So that means you're going to have to hire a manager or an integrator or a COO or somebody like that who's going to be managing the team members and the work on a daily basis instead of you, right? And once you do that, you become what I call the CEO. Now, obviously, we all started our businesses. We say, okay, well, I'm the founder, therefore I'm the CEO, right? Yes, on paper. But in reality, I mean, if you're doing all sorts of work, right? Like there's work that CEOs do, and then there's work that, let's say, social media person does, or a salesperson does, or whatever, like is the execution in your business. It's not the CEO who, typically would be doing that. The CEO work is kind of like different, right? Now, when you're the one-man band, or like you have a small team and you got to do all sorts of stuff, yes, that means by default you are the CEO. But what I'm trying to say is the CEO is when you have the workers and the systems and the manager and the systems to manage people in place, So now you've replaced yourself as you climb up through the stages, right? So basically at that stage, your systems run the business, your manager runs the team, and you focus on strategy and growth. You could literally take a month off without crisis. Now, the business probably wouldn't grow. I mean, it would grow if you have great systems, but nobody would be doing the growth initiatives on their own, right? Because you as the CEO are setting the strategy and most of the growth initiatives. Now, you might have a marketing person who's doing it on a smaller level and within their own department, but you are steering the ship, right? So you can take a month off if you have a good team and great systems, and things will work just fine. Maybe you need to check in here and there, right? But if you want to go to the next stage where somebody is actually driving the growth forward as well, right? So like the business runs and grows without you, well, then you need to hire a CEO. That person is going to replace you as the CEO, right? So then you become what I call a boardroom owner. It has nothing to do with, like the corporate boardrooms, guys in suits and stuff like this. It's just, it's a term that I use to illustrate like, okay, the next evolution. So at that point, you have a leadership team. Your involvement is completely optional. And that's where, you get true passive income. Obviously, this term has been, beaten to death by online marketers with like all sorts of sort of, semi-shady promises and that sort of stuff. But really, when you think about it in this structure, when you have people doing the work and you have people who are managing those people and you have a CEO who's driving the strategy and the growth and, making sure that the systems are in place, and you're really not involved beyond like you're still just owning the company, and maybe you show up like once a week or once a month for a strategy call with your CEO or the leadership team, then really that's as close as a passive income that you can get. It's not a pipe dream. I mean, back in my days, I actually was hired as a CEO of an online business. It was doing 7 figures, and yeah, like the owner, they just showed up once a month for the call, and like that was it. Like they were not involved, right? So it's totally possible, and you don't have to have like an enterprise structure or anything like this, right? It's just putting the team members and the systems in place that you can do this. That's basically what it is. And then obviously stage 5, the final stage would be exit. You've sold the business. If you build it right, then buyers will compete to pay premium multiples. If you didn't, then it's kind of a hustle to sell it because nobody really wants to buy a job. Or I shouldn't say nobody. It's a different type of buyer, and they'll pay less because they have less money. They just need to replace their income with like, a different type of job, which is kind of like being self-employed. It's a lot harder to sell it. So let's say if you're somewhere between the worker and the manager and you're trying to sell it, yeah, the next person who comes in has to take all those responsibilities and all the work that you're currently doing and somehow replace you, because there's going to be a big hole when you leave, right? And it's a lot harder for somebody to step in. So you're going to have to build the systems anyway. And at that point, maybe you don't want to sell it if it's running without you. But anyway, that's like a topic for a different video. What I said before is most people are stuck between worker and manager, right? You hire help, but you're still answering questions all the time, but you're still doing also some work on the other aspects of the business, and you're kind of like in between. And working harder won't get you to the next stage, right? So that's the key insight here. Like you want to keep progressing, because I did not, put like income brackets here or revenue brackets here, but the higher you go, the revenue climbs as well, right? It's just not like a related, like just because you have a higher revenue, like I said at the beginning, it doesn't mean that now you're the CEO if you're still doing a bunch of the work, right? So anyway, what will get you to the next stage is not working harder. It's a simple formula that I have, and that's systems times team equals freedom, right? So that's basically what you need. So you need systems to put in place, and you need a team who's going to drive those systems and execute on the systems, and then basically you're not needed, right? Like that's all that's happening in a business. There are people who execute certain systems to deliver a certain result, and that's it. And if you need a different result, you tweak the systems or you improve the people. It's as simple as that, right? So if you go through the stages and you're putting the infrastructure behind you in place, you can keep leveling up. Obviously, that means you're becoming a different person. You need to learn new skills, all this sort of stuff. But, this is a simple way that you can think about it. And that's why your previous attempts maybe didn't work as well as you would want them to. And then, that's why people get stuck in the weeds when we all want, time and money freedom. We all want a business that's going to kind of run itself. It's still fun and interesting to be involved with the growth part and so on. But it really isn't that much fun to be involved in the nitty-gritty daily grind, stuck in the weeds, where you can't focus on like the big picture and like, how can you really push forward and grow this business fast and so on. So basically what people do is they try hiring people, but they don't have systems, right? So and that's why this super simple equation, I mean, it's kind of obvious when you put it like this, but like if you don't have systems and you hire people, you're still missing one part of the equation. So then basically you become the system, right? You hire a few helpers and now they need to execute work. You don't have systems and process maps and SOPs and tactical playbooks and that sort of stuff. So what's going to happen is like, they're going to come to you all the time. You're going to have to like kind of, micromanage them. You're going to have to assign tasks to them with detailed instructions. Hey, do this and this is how you do it. You log in and then you do this and, call that customer and tell them blah, blah, blah. Or like go on the field and like, do a survey in this way, like whatever your business is, right? So you're going to have to become basically the living, breathing, walking operating system of your business if you don't have systems, right? Which means, again, your growth is going to be capped because you're only one person. You only have a certain amount of hours every day and every week until you burn out. And even then, if you go crazy and you work like, 80 hours, like too many founders do, you're still capped. Like you can't work 81 hours, right? So that's it. So like your business can reach a certain point and then that's it. And then you're probably going to burn out and hit a wall and it might start collapsing or you get like sick of it and tired of it. People sell it on the cheap just to get rid of it or they just shut it down, right? So anyway, like you can't hire people. I mean, you can, but if you hire people and you don't have systems, you end up with expensive chaos because your brain basically is the system and everybody's trying to plug into your brain and get the knowledge out that they need to, do the work. The other side is you creating the systems and writing, process maps, SOPs, tactical play, all this sort of stuff. But if you don't have a team, you're still just you. You're more efficient. So I think everybody should start systemizing their business immediately, right? The moment that you start it, just start systemizing all the activities that are happening because that's going to allow you later when you're bringing in new people. First of all, you're going to spend like maybe 10% of the onboarding and training of your time and ultimately, expenses because it's going to be much faster to train people. They're going to onboard faster. So anyway, anybody should do it because even if you're a one-man band, you really need systems, right? Even if you plan to stay a one-man band, like there's plenty of consultants who are making, 7 figures plus just being on their own. And maybe they have like a one part-time assistant for social media or something like this. Totally doable, right? I did this myself in the past. But basically, even if you're a one-man band, like you want to create systems because that's going to allow you to be more efficient, right? If you have everything in place, you just know what to do. It's kind of like clockwork. All right, I need to execute this at this certain time of the week. So, okay, on Monday, I need to do this, this, and this. On Tuesday, I'm doing this, this, and this. And how do I do it? Well, I just open up this playbook and I just follow the steps and I do it and that's it, right? Otherwise, you're going to kind of like keep reinventing the wheel because you forget how to do stuff, right? I'm sure like, you can think of many examples where like you already figured out how to do something. And then like weeks later, you need to do it again. And you're like, how did I do that again? Where's that thing? And then you're like looking for it and that sort of stuff, right? Yeah, so you need systems even if you're a one-man band. But again, you're going to be capped to how much you can achieve depending on your business model and, like what kind of problems you're solving. You can still make a great income. It's capped, right? So like there's a difference between a one-man band consultant and a consulting firm, right? McKinsey, ultimately, basically. And then obviously the worst situation is, which again, too many founders are stuck in, is like you work harder, you're alone, you don't really have a team. You might have, some part-time assistants or like maybe you hire an agency here and there for some stuff. But basically you're on your own and you don't have systems. Just a really bad situation to be in. I mean, you're on the path to burnout and you're really, really inefficient, right? So those are kind of like the three, I wouldn't even call them strategies because they're kind of like unconscious. People just find themselves in these situations, but really they are strategies. You're just not, designing it consciously. But that's what people do. And that's why they're limited and that's why they get stuck. And that's why so many people are burning out, right? And getting tired of their businesses or at least like frustrated, like, why can't I grow this beyond a certain point, right? It was working well at the beginning and I'm hitting a plateau and it's kind of like even going slowly down or like maybe you're getting concerned. Well, I'm just like one bad quarter away from like being in real trouble with the cash flow or inventory or whatever, right? Yeah, this is what solves it. So you need both sides of the equation. You need the systems, you need a team, and that's what creates results that start compounding. Because when you think about it, the more systems you have and the bigger your team, the bigger the output of the company, right? Now that's obviously, we're not talking about, product market fit and how great of a product you have and all this sort of stuff. That's, although even that comes down to systems. Because if you don't have a great product market fit, but assuming you have something that works and, people will want it, you can keep improving the product if you have a system for it. And if you have people who can do the improvement part of the process. Everything comes down to systems and people inside your business. Maybe you think like, no, it doesn't. I just need like better marketing and my ads are not working the way they should. Okay, that means you have a bad system for, let's say, Facebook ads, okay? Or you have a team member that's not trained enough or like, capable of doing it. So you have either a systems problem or a team problem, and that's the only two problems. You don't have a marketing problem. Marketing is just a word, but basically marketing is composed of many systems. Paid traffic, organic, SEO, social media, whatever, right? and they're just systems. And then like inside paid traffic, you have, okay, Facebook ads, Google ads, those are systems as well. And then even inside of Google ads, all right, you got your shopping ads, performance max, search ads, YouTube ads. So just systems, and then somebody needs to do it. And yeah, systems and team. So that's how it works. So basically, to move between these 5 stages, that's what you need. So let's have a look at the 5 stages and how this equation relates, right? So we said, okay, you're the worker first, then you hire other workers, you become the manager, then you hire somebody to replace you as the manager, you become the CEO. Eventually, you hire a CEO and you become what I call the boardroom owner. So you're just not really involved in the day-to-day. You're just kind of like strategic advisor, or not even that if you don't want to. And then, okay, you can exit the business and sell it. So these are the 5 stages. This is the equation. All right, so how do they connect together? Well, if you want to go from a worker to a manager, you're going to have to build your first systems, and you're going to have to hire your first team members. Because like I said, if you don't build your first systems before you hire somebody, it will flop. It just won't go down well, and everybody will end up frustrated. You'll think you didn't hire a good person. Oh, they were just a bad hire. I never can find good people. That sort of nonsense. And they will also be frustrated with you. They'll think, okay, this was a bad owner. This business doesn't know what they're doing, and that sort of stuff, right? So you need systems, and you need to hire good team members to then go and become the manager, because now other people can do the work based on the systems that you've given them, right? If you just hire somebody, let's say a typical example will be something to do with marketing, right? Because the owner is sometimes not like an expert in marketing, and then they'll bring in, let's say, an agency, and they're like, right, you're not the marketing agency, you need to deliver, right? Like, just give me results and I don't care, and like, I'm just gonna show up for meetings, and if it doesn't go well, it's because you guys suck, right? That's basically, too many founders see it like this. When in reality, you also need a system for that. You should see the agency as a team member, even though it's an outside sort of like entity, right? So you're still responsible for the results and creating the system, if for nothing else, than to create a system of how you manage the agency, how you track the results, how you do the meetings and the calls and all this sort of stuff, right? And then if they're like the ones with the expertise, then okay, you kind of have like a black box inside your business, right? But you try to also start extracting from them the systems that they're using, and quite often they won't be using anything. So that's kind of a different problem. But you start extracting the system. So like if they leave, you just replace them with the next person or the next agency, or you bring it in-house. And now you already have the systems. It's like, well, this is how we were doing it, and now you are going to be doing it, right? Like too many founders get stuck in a situation where like the agency leaves, nobody knows what they were doing. It was kind of like a black box. You just showed up for calls to see what are the sales this month. And then when they leave, for whatever reason, like the next agency is starting from scratch, and they bring their own sort of like way of doing stuff. It's just kind of like a mess, right? So like you need to own the system. But anyway, you go from worker to manager by hiring workers, and for that you need systems. You go from manager to CEO. All right, cool. So you're going to have to hire people, right? Your team, that's going to be the manager level now. And then you're going to have to develop new systems for how this manager is supposed to manage people. Because again, if you just throw them in there and you're like, well, you're the manager, good luck. And you don't tell them like how your business operates and who does what and like what the outcomes are that you expect, well, it's not going to be that great. So basically, every single transition is just another application of systems times team equals freedom. The higher you want to go, you need better systems, you need a stronger team, and so on. Now, let me show you how your business starts looking as you go through these 5 stages in just a very simple example. So basically, you would use what I call a company mind map to keep track of, how many systems you have documented, which level you're at, and that sort of stuff. So basically, a mind map, I've talked about this in the previous videos a lot, is here's a simple example for an e-commerce business, but every company will have its own unique approach to it. But basically, you can just create a mind map and then create the main branches for the main departments or core functions that need to happen in your business. Maybe that's marketing, sales, product, operations, leadership. Okay, then you go into marketing. Here I named it growth. And you'll be like, okay, we have paid ads. Now, if you're not running paid ads, you wouldn't have this branch, right? And then inside paid ads, for example, we have Facebook ads. Again, if you're not running this, then you represent what's happening inside your business right now. That's what you put here. And once you have this mind map, you can then go around and you can start saying, okay, let's color code it with a simple traffic system of red, yellow, green. Red means you're still completely doing that particular thing in your business. Like there's nobody but you who's doing it, even though you might have a little bit of help here and there. But basically, if you would go away for a month, nothing would happen, right? So let's say you're running Facebook ads, like you're the expert in your business for that, or like you're, buying courses and you're learning it and you're setting up some ads and so on. But if you don't do it, like nobody will do it. If you don't do it, it doesn't get done. That means it's red. So then you just mark it red. Okay, cool. Let's say I'm just gonna, use the Google ads for example. Let's say you're also doing Google ads on your own. Okay, cool. And let's just say, I mean, not many people are doing TikTok ads, but let's say you are. But let's say somebody else is doing it, but you're kind of still telling them what to do, right? You're still like, well, we need to get leads, so put up this type of video and then drive it to this landing page. So like you're driving the strategy, right? They're just doing the legwork. Okay, cool. So then that would be yellow because it's kind of like in between. It would be green if you hire somebody and they just run with it and like you don't have to give any input other than the KPIs and the goals that they should hit. You just say, hey, you're now the TikTok ads person. I want you to hit 20K in sales this month. That's it. Here are the playbooks, here are the systems, but it's on you. And, we'll meet once a week to review performance and KPIs, and you let me know if you need something, but you're not involved. They're not coming to you saying, ooh, this ad isn't performing. Do you think we should have another one? What kind of ad do you think would work well? No, like that, it's outsourced, it's delegated. So that would be green. So now I can go for the entire company and start like putting little color codes like this. And then, at the end, you will have something that looks like this. That's obviously a simplification, but at the worker stage, it's all red because you're doing everything. At the manager stage, now it's like some of it is yellow because again, if you're managing people who are doing it, it's still yellow, right? Because you're heavily involved. You're still assigning tasks in Asana for that person to create, I don't know, hey, create a Black Friday campaign and here's a new task in Asana or ClickUp and here are the subtasks and I want you to use this type of videos and here's going to be the landing page and I also want you to create the landing page and you should put this on the landing page and let me know when it's all done and then I will check it and that sort of stuff, right? So basically, you'll be somewhere between red and yellow and you probably won't have many green dots, if anything, unless, again, you have somebody who's owning completely one side of the business. Okay, cool. When you're at the CEO stage, you need to have a lot more areas green because otherwise you won't be able to become the CEO, right? So you can't become a CEO stage and have all of this red and yellow, meaning like you're still doing it. Because if you're spending time running Facebook ads or posting on social media or doing sales calls or generating leads or doing client work, well, then those are all red areas, right? Then who's doing the CEO level? That means you didn't replace yourself in that part of your business as the worker or the manager, right? But if you did, that means more and more stuff will go from red to yellow to green. And eventually, when you're at the boardroom owner stage, everything is green because nothing depends on you. You can go away for a month and everything will continue working and growing as it did before, right? And in fact, that's the stage where you wouldn't even be present anyway. So that's kind of it. So like your job as the owner, as the founder, is to turn all these red dots into yellow and then into green. And that's how you progress. Obviously, again, we're not talking about product market fit and all this sort of stuff, but this is how you can start seeing your business and it will give you like a clear roadmap. Okay, well, what do I need to achieve? Because I would suggest you want to stop focusing and chasing revenue because that leads to people like chasing like, shiny objects. Oh, let's do this. Oh, I heard this works. Oh, it didn't work. What should we do now? Let's do this. But if you start building systems instead, then you put the people in place who can execute instead of you, and they'll have a lot more time to focus on it and you'll get better results, right? So you can simply look at your business right now and see how much red do you have. I would say create a mind map like this, start labeling it, and you'll see, okay, how much red, and then you'll see where you're at. So identify your stage, then pick one red area, apply the freedom equation, which means start building systems and start building a team around it, or, you might just need one team member. I have plenty of videos on that. And then repeat, you just go, okay, here, I'm going to hire somebody who's going to run my Facebook ads. This is now yellow because I'm still like telling them what to do and like teaching them and like, I'm heavily involved. And then eventually I want this to be green. So like, they don't even ask me what to do. They just show me the results every week. And, if they need extra support, we'll provide like training or whatever. But other than that, like it's now green. And you go like core function by core function and you turn everything into green. And that's where you become like the boardroom owner or the CEO. And life is great and you can scale a lot faster because you're not spread across all these different areas. You're just focusing on the growth and the strategy because all the other stuff is taken care of. So this is a visual representation of it, how you can like keep progressing. It's kind of like your, roadmap, and that's it. And you will notice that, things start compounding because let's say if you're one person who needs to execute on, 10 different systems in your business, well, you can give 10% of your attention to each of them, right? If you systemize those 10 core functions and you hire 3 people, now you got 3 people running 10 systems, right? So let's say the output would be 30. Obviously, it's a simplification. Different areas are more complex or whatever. Let's say you hire 5 people to run 15 systems. Well, the output is 75, right? So it starts compounding because the more people you put in place, the more systems you have in place, the more things are systemized. Well, the higher you can scale. Like the faster you can scale, it's easier and all this sort of stuff. Again, it's a simplification. The point of this equation is to give you a way of thinking about your business systematically and start delegating stuff properly so that you get out of the weeds and into doing strategy work, which then in turn will allow you to grow the business much, much faster. So that's it. I would say stop solving $10 problems or $20 or $40 or $50 problems and start building $10 million systems or $1 million system or 100K systems, right? But start building systems so you are not the only problem solver and you finally build a business that can grow beyond your personal capacity. Or it can even just stay at the same level, but without you being personally involved, and you'll just have like more free time for your family and other activities and so on. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.